Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm Skip Elsheimer, and welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime streaming show, where we watch old 16mm films. Sometimes they don't have sound. Sometimes, in the middle of a reel, the film goes negative, and that's what we just saw. Is some positive footage and then some negative footage, and so when I have the settings set up, I can transfer negative as positive, or I can do it in post, but I can't do it while I'm running. So it's not hard for me to fix it, but yeah, you guys got to see some negative footage. So it's July. Did I say I'm Skip Elsheimer in this AV Geeks Lunchtime streaming show? Well, that's what we do. That's who I am. And, I said that we watch 16mm film. Well, sometimes we have to watch some video, and that is because we are interested to see what's going on, what's the progress on the International Space Station circa 23 years ago. Enjoy.
At the turn of the century, author Edward Everett Hale wrote a fanciful story about a brick moon. Inside the man-made structure, humans lived and worked high above the Earth. The idea, at the time, was only a distant dream. As a new century begins, there is a new star on the horizon, the International Space Station. And the dream of a home in space has become a reality. The product of many nations working together, the complete space station will be a world-class laboratory where crews will put space to work, conducting science virtually free of Earth's gravity, science that may one day lead to new discoveries in medicine, technology, and industry. The size of a football field, the International Space Station will comprise over 100 components, delivered to orbit on more than 40 spaceflights. Its construction is already underway.
Good morning, Endeavour. Time to build the International Space Station.
We are ready.
In December of 1998, the first two pieces of the station were joined together in Earth orbit. The American-funded and Russian-built Zarya control module, which launched a few weeks earlier on a Russian Proton rocket, was grappled by the crew of the Space Shuttle Endeavour and mated with the American-made node named Unity.
Houston Endeavour, we have capture of Zarya.
Zarya provides the early propulsion and power for the station and will later be used primarily as fuel storage as the station grows in size. Unity is a connecting module containing several portholes that will be the passageway to future components of the station. During the mission, astronauts Jerry Ross and Jim Newman turned Earth orbit into a construction site, conducting 3 spacewalks to connect lines of power and communication between Unity and Zarya. Construction continued inside as the crew hooked up ventilation lines, communication hardware, and other important components. With the first mission complete, the International Space Station was born. The groundwork had been laid for future missions that will advance the station on to its next step. As flight controllers monitored the space station's progress from the ground, another shuttle mission prepared for launch. While the first mission was primarily for assembly, this second crew had an equally important task: bring the newly assembled station one step closer to being a home. the crew delivered almost 2 tons of supplies, including computers, maintenance tools, and clothing. The supplies and logistics will be used by the first crew that will live on board the station. In addition to transferring items from the shuttle to the station, astronauts Tammy Jernigan and Dan Barry conducted a spacewalk to install 2 pieces of space hardware on the exterior of the station, one U.S.-made crane and the initial parts of a Russian-made Strela crane. Both instruments will be useful to astronauts during future station construction and maintenance tasks. Inside the Zarya module, small voltage regulators that were not working up to standard were replaced with new components, improving the efficiency of Zarya's 6 onboard batteries. Inside Unity, minor repairs were made to the early communication system, which received a new switch, bringing the unit back to full service. With the station systems in excellent shape and the supplies properly stored, the mission was complete. The next time astronauts visit the station, there will be another module in place, one that will provide future crews a place to live. The service module named Zvezda, Russian for star. Considered to be the cornerstone of the space station, Zvezda is the first fully Russian contribution to the station. The component provides power, life support, communications, and flight control, as well as a place for crews to sleep, eat, and exercise. Recently, Zvezda was shipped by rail from its factory in Moscow to its launch site in Kazakhstan, where it is undergoing final launch preparations. Like its predecessor, Zarya, Zvezda will launch on a Proton rocket in Kazakhstan and enter Earth orbit. Flight controllers will dock the space station by remote control with Zvezda, adding this important module to the stack. Shortly afterward, another space shuttle will dock with the station, bringing more supplies and outfitting Zvezda. This will be followed by another shuttle mission, which will deliver new station hardware, the backbone for what will be the football field-length truss structure. This Z1 truss will ride into orbit in the payload bay, along with a third pressurized mating adapter, identical to those on the Unity module. Both of those components are already at Kennedy Space Center's Space Station Processing Facility, being readied for launch. Once these 2 components are in place, the station will be ready for its first crew. Expedition 1 is led by American astronaut Bill Shepard, a 3-time spaceflight veteran. He is joined by flight engineer Sergei Krikalev, a Russian cosmonaut who returns to the station after his involvement with the first assembly mission, and Soyuz commander Yuri Gidzenko, a Russian cosmonaut. Expedition 1 will launch on a Russian Soyuz rocket from Kazakhstan and dock with the expanded space station, beginning a permanent human presence in space. The 3-person crew will continue the construction of the station from on board, and during their stay, will see the station grow in size and power. One of the largest components delivered during Expedition 1's stay will be the U.S. laboratory, Destiny. The size of the school bus, Destiny is the centerpiece for future scientific activity on the station and is already undergoing launch preparations at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. The Expedition 1 crew have been training in both the United States and Russia, learning every aspect of their mission, from their flight on board the Soyuz to their life on board the station. Also in training are the next round of station crews and shuttle crews who continue to prepare for their missions to either live on board or assemble the station. From around the world, more than 500,000 pounds of station hardware is moving from the factory floor to the launch site. The Italian Space Agency has manufactured the Leonardo Multipurpose Logistics Module, the first of such modules that will serve as the station's moving van, carrying laboratory racks, experiments, and supplies to and from the station aboard the Space Shuttle. From Canada comes the Space Station Remote Manipulator System, or Robot Arm, the next generation in robotics the station arm will have unprecedented flexibility and strength and will be a valuable tool for station construction and maintenance. The arm was recently delivered to the Kennedy Space Center for processing. A test article of the arm has been constructed at the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas, to be used for astronaut training. The U.S.-built airlock is currently under construction at the Marshall Space Flight Center in Alabama and enhances the capability of astronauts to conduct spacewalks from the station. A segment of the 300-foot station truss has arrived at KSC and is undergoing launch preparation, with 4 more giant truss segments on the way. In Huntington Beach, California, tests are being run on the station's giant solar arrays. The complete station will contain over a half-acre of such arrays, which will provide over 112 kilowatts of power for the complex. Under construction in Japan is the Japanese Experiment Module, recently named Kibo, the Japanese word for hope. The module will have the capability to conduct science experiments outside the station on an exterior platform. Kibo will have its own robot arm to assist in the scientific activities. From the European Space Agency is the Columbus Attached Pressurized Module, which expands the station's capability for science. Recently, at the Kennedy Space Center's Space Station Processing Facility in Florida, tests have begun on station components scheduled for launch within the next year. The station parts are connected by cables to verify that they work together well, looking ahead to the day when the components will be joined together for real in space, forming the International Space Station. When it's complete, the space station will be the largest spacecraft ever built. Clearly visible in the night sky, it will be a reminder that 250 miles above, humans are living and working in space, making an age-old dream come true, and bringing the scientific benefits of space down to Earth.
It always helps to look back 23 years and see how we're doing. Oops. See, this is the timer I send to make sure that we don't have dead air, but it doesn't really work all the time, so there you go. Wow, lots of stuff to see today, lots of films. So, as you know, we've been doing a bunch of Encyclopedia Britannica scanning, so we're trying to pepper in a little bit here and there. This next film is Poison's Emergency Procedures. Enjoy.
It's tempting, is brightly colored, looks good, is within reach, and it's poison. Each year, hundreds of thousands of people are poisoned. Several thousand die.
Teresa?
Most poisonings are accidental and avoidable. Anyone can be poisoned when warnings on labels are not read, medicines are taken in the dark, products that give off fumes are used in a poorly ventilated area, or instructions on medications are not followed. Young people are often poisoned by sniffing glue, paint, or cleaning fluids, experimenting with drugs, or downing a full bottle of hard liquor. But those most often poisoned are children under the age of 5, who do not have the knowledge or experience to protect themselves from harmful substances. Boys are poisoned 2 times as often as girls. 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 2 times as often The most dangerous age is 1 to 3, when children are constantly exploring the world around them. A child is curious, fearless, and can't read warning labels. What a child sees, she reaches for, puts in her mouth, and swallows, especially just before mealtime. Smell and taste, no matter how bad, will not stop her.
Teresa, where are you?
Growing children come into contact with many things commonly found in the home, which may be poisonous. Some people have died from poisoning even though they did not appear to be sick right away. Others have died because the poison acted very quickly or because they tried to treat themselves with home remedies or so-called antidotes. But if you act quickly and correctly, the help you give will lessen the effects of the poison. You could save a life. Learn to recognize signs of poisoning. For example, someone suddenly becomes nauseated, starts to perspire, becomes pale or flushed, feels weak, has a severe headache or troubled breathing. Suspect poisoning caused by drug overdose if someone is sluggish or overactive. If eyes move rapidly from side to side, if the pupils are dilated or constricted, or if there is a radical change in behavior. Suspect poisoning if a child is unusually drowsy or overactive, is drooling and won't swallow, vomits, or complains of abdominal pain, has stains or irritations around the mouth, has irregular or abnormal breathing. If you know or even suspect that someone has been poisoned, don't wait to see what effect the poison may have. Call a poison control center, emergency department, or doctor immediately. Keep these numbers near your phone at all times. Don't trust your memory. Write down any instructions you are given. Do only what you've been told to do. If you are instructed to give syrup of ipecac to induce vomiting, give 1 to 2 glassfuls of water with it. Vomiting should follow within 15 to 20 minutes and must be forceful to be effective. If you're instructed to bring the poisoned victim to the hospital, be sure to bring all the vomitus so that it can be examined. First aid instructions, printed on container labels, may be wrong. The most important action to take when poisons are swallowed is to dilute the substance by immediately giving a conscious victim 1 to 2 glasses of water or milk to drink. Do not treat poisoning in any other way. Get to a phone as quickly as possible to call a poison control center, emergency department, or doctor for further instructions. Take suspected containers and their contents with you. Never try to give liquids to a very drowsy or unconscious person whom you suspect has suffered poisoning. If you suspect drug overdose, don't try to treat it yourself with strong coffee or by making the victim walk it off. It won't work. Get to the emergency department quickly. The victim's life depends on expert care. Poisoning also can occur from venomous bites. All snake bites, poisonous or non-poisonous, should have medical attention. Do not give alcohol or sedatives or any medication containing aspirin to the victim. If severe symptoms occur within 15 minutes of the bite, the venom must be suctioned out. Apply a constricting band 2 to 4 inches above the bite. The band should slow circulation, but not stop it. You should feel a pulse beyond the band and be able to slip one finger under it. Make cuts 1/2 inch long through each fang mark and just through the skin. Suction the cuts with a suction cup if available, or use your mouth for 30 minutes. If you use your mouth, be careful not to swallow any of the venom. Rinse your mouth when finished. Seek medical assistance immediately. Poisoning also can result from contact with certain chemical compounds.
Hey, quick!
Flush the area with water for at least 20 minutes while removing all affected clothing, including underclothes and jewelry. Have the victim see a doctor as soon as possible. Inhaled fumes may result in poisoning. Get the victim into fresh air, but don't become a victim yourself. Don't inhale the fumes. If he is conscious, have him breathe deeply and slowly.
Dad. Leanne. Call an
If
ambulance.
the victim is unconscious, check breathing and heartbeat. If you have been trained, use cardiopulmonary resuscitation as in this simulation, if necessary, until they are restored. Then, quickly, get the victim to the emergency department. But even more important, you can do many things to prevent accidental poisoning. When you buy household products or medicines, read the warning labels. They are for your protection. Keep all substances in their original containers. If you must transfer a product to a new container, be sure to label it clearly. Never use cups or pop bottles to store household products. To a child, they mean food. Store cleansers, furniture polish, and other products that may be poisonous out of reach and out of sight of children. And keep hazardous products away from foods or medicines. There are many look-alike containers and substances. For example, aspirin and some rat poison pellets look very similar. Rinse out containers that held household products before discarding them. Place them at the bottom of your trash bin, where a child will not find them. Iron preparations and vitamin tablets can cause serious poisoning, even death, when taken in overdose amounts. Keep them off the breakfast table or anywhere children can reach them. Also place aspirin and aspirin substitutes out of children's reach. Keep all medications under lock and key. Call medicines and vitamins by their proper names. Don't tell children that medicine is candy to get them to take it, because they will, the whole bottle, when you aren't looking. Avoid taking medicine in front of children. Don't tell them how good medicine makes you feel. They will want to try it. Never take or give medicine in the dark. And of course, take only the amount instructed by the label. Dispose of all old medicines, and then rinse the container well. Place all medications and cosmetics brought into your house by guests out of the reach of children. And keep all houseplants out of the reach of children. Many plants can poison, even when leaves are just nibbled, or the water in which plants have been soaked is swallowed. Don't let a child pick at and eat caulking around window panes, and remove chipped or cracked paint that may tempt a child. Keep children away when you use any spray insecticides or spray paint. Protect yourself from inhaled fumes by having good ventilation and wearing a mask when necessary. Keep a bottle of syrup of ipecac in your home. When recommended by a poison control center, hospital, or doctor, it can be used to induce vomiting. And always keep the telephone numbers of your doctor, the nearest emergency department, and poison control center close to your phone, and instruct everyone in your family to use them in case of poisoning. By knowing what to do when someone is poisoned and acting quickly, you could save a life.
It's 1982, 40 years ago. Yeah, I mean, there's some common sense in there. The interesting thing is about the little mention about teenagers sniffing glue and gas and drinking a whole bottle of alcohol in order to get high or get drunk. That's interesting. I'd never seen that before in these films on poisoning, but certainly it applies. Speaking of children, let's see how they're doing it in the winter, because it's really hot here, and I would love to see some kids frolicking in the snow. Enjoy.
The last of autumn have fallen off the trees, and the frost has changed grass to brown. The air is brisk and cold. For a long the season changes from autumn to winter. In the northern parts of our country, it begins to snow. Where Jerry and Jane live, the first snow usually falls early in December. Some of the snow has melted on the roof of the house. Drop by drop, the melted water has been frozen into icicles by the cold air. Jerry and Jane are waiting for their father. He promised to take them to choose a Christmas tree this afternoon. Jerry'd like to make a snowman, but the snow won't stick together. It's too dry, too powdery for packing. But it's good for sledding. Jerry has a sled. He and Jane are going to get it. Jane runs into the garden. How barren it looks. The stems and leaves of many plants die in winter, but the roots go on living in the soil all winter long. Some plants in this garden were covered for the winter. Paper or burlap keeps the plants protected enough, even during the coldest weather. The seeds in this seed pod will survive the winter. And so will the buds on the lilac bush. Jerry knows that there are tiny leaves inside these buds. Next spring, when it gets warmer, leaves will sprout from these buds.
Jenny! Jane!
It's time to go for the Christmas tree. Sparky wants to come along. Why not? Jane will hold on to his leash so that he will stay with them. Down the block, Father pulls Jane and Jerry to the Christmas tree market. Christmas trees are always green. That's why we call them evergreens. They do not lose their leaves in winter. Needles are leaves for spruce and pines. There are many kinds of Christmas trees here. Jerry likes the spruce tree. Jane likes the tall pine with long needles. Jerry, Jane, and Mr. Frank settle on this one. It's fun to choose your own Christmas tree. It's only 4 days to Christmas. Today's the shortest day of the year, which is the real beginning of winter. But for the children, it has been winter ever since the first snow fell. And now it's January. The sun never climbs high in the sky in January. It's almost noontime, but see how long the shadows are. It has been snowing hard all night. A path must be cleared from the house to the street. That's a chore for boys. Sparky's out looking for adventure. His sharp eye spots some hungry birds searching for food under the snow cover. Most birds fly away to the south for the winter. Sparky also spots some rabbit tracks. Many animals sleep in winter, but rabbits come out of their burrows to look for food. Will Sparky go after the rabbit? Jerry's whistle calls Sparky back to the house. Homework's all done. Jane and Jerry would like to go out to play. The snow on the branches has turned the garden into a winter fairyland. Jane wonders if this is a good day to try out her new skates. This is a very cold day outside, but the air is fresh and dry. Mother says it will be all right for Jerry and Jane to go out to play, provided they dress warmly. Jane in her snowsuit jacket, and Jerry in his old fleece line jacket, which is still good enough for sledding. Because the air is very cold, the water spread over the school playground became so cold that it turned to ice. Here, Jane and her friends can skate safely. But where children skate on ponds, they must make sure the ice is thick enough to support them. At the edge of the park where a road has been closed off for safe coasting, Jerry enjoys his favorite winter sport. There he comes down the slope again. And Sparky, too. What fun they have. Here comes Jane to pick up Jerry so that he can pull her home on his sled. But Jerry's not yet ready to go. The sun is setting quickly, and Jane's shadow is getting longer. This morning, Jane learned why the shadows are long when the sun is low in the sky. Can you tell why? In the cold air, Jane can see her steamy white breath. Once more down the hill, and the boys will be ready to go home. Another month has gone by. It's February now. The days are gradually getting longer, but it's still cold. The snow is falling hard today. The fireplace feels cozy on cold and wet days. What a good to pop some corn. Jerry and Jane have been doing some pictures for school. Jane has been drawing a snowman. Like it, Jerry? She asks. Snowman, says Jerry. Let's go out and make one. Jane wants to see how cold it is. The thermometer reads 32 degrees. That's just cold enough for the water to freeze. In the sun, the icicles will probably melt, but the days are still too short to warm the air and the earth enough to melt away all the snow. Packing snow is heavy. Jerry is struggling with a really big snowball. It will make a fine base for the snowman. And here he is, a snowman for Jerry and Jane. A carrot for his nose, and a stick for a mouth, and some charcoal for his buttons and eyes, and a straw hat. Isn't he a funny snowman? Buttons and eyes, and a straw hat. Isn't he a funny snowman? The sky has completely cleared, and the sun feels warm. Jane says it's getting to be too warm for our snowman. Look at the snow melting all around. Soon winter will be over. But the children don't mind it. Jerry and Jane are beginning to wish that it would be spring again. And it will be spring next month, in March.
So, I don't do well in the summer. Not a summer fan. I love the winter. I love the fall. So, all that seemed really great to me. And being cold, it's part of the territory. Don't mind being cold. I'd rather be a little on the cold side than on the hot side. But that's just me. All right, let's watch. I got another film set up on the scanner. This one is... who is this? Actually, I have a teacher's guide here. Has a guy writing a letter. Where was this made? Who made this? Churchill Wexler. This is good. So this shows up in the film sometimes. Is a film inspection sheet. This film print is okay, ready to be shown again. Check. This film needs attention. sprocket damage, broken film or splice, wrong film in can, number of showings, number in audience. Some films you had to report your audience in order to help pay a licensing fee. Attention Film Library, this film title is still current material and should remain in the library. This film is obsolete and should be screened by the Film Removal Committee. The Film Removal Committee. Wow, I wonder who's on that committee. A lot of people who are just, this is obsolete. This is pointless, useless. All right, and then I get it. All right, here it is. Letter from Indonesia.
Dear Dave and Dorothy, I was glad to learn from your letter that you are studying about Indonesia in school. I'm enclosing some Indonesian stamps which you can show to your class. Someday I hope you can visit our islands to see how we live, as I did when I visited you in the United States. What can I tell you about Indonesia? It's raining outside right now. I could tell you about our long rainy season and our tropical climate, but I'm sure you will learn about this at school. I suppose I could describe our animal life and our tropical vegetation. I could tell you about our economy and our plantations. The great groves of palm trees which produce palm oil, the rubber plantations, but I'm sure you can read about these in your textbooks. I think I would like to tell you about our people and how we live. There are many things that are alike in both our countries and many things that are different. There is traffic in our cities too, but for each car there are dozens of bicycles. Even some of our taxis are three-wheeled bicycles with the passengers in front and the drivers behind. We have jeeps and trucks and automobiles, but they all come from the United States and Europe because we don't have factories here to make them. It's not strange that we have our traffic problems down here on the equator. After all, 3 million people live in Jakarta, our capital city. Many of our newer buildings are like yours too. Buildings such as the National Museum, which is much like your National Art Gallery in Washington. Buildings like the National Post Office and our President's home, the White House of Indonesia. Throughout our cities, new plans are being developed. Construction would be a familiar sight to you. But our methods are different because we do not yet have much machinery. You would feel at home in many of our houses. Many of our people even dress like you do most of the time. At other times, they dress in the traditional way, like little Yusuf Sujito in his black cap and sarong. You would like my friends, the Sujitos. Sometimes, when Mr. Sujito isn't busy at his job with the government, he goes to market with the family. Bananas, the peddler says. Bananas and oranges. And a free sample for Yusuf. I hope the peddler is a friend of his. For a quick bite, the Sujitos can buy packets of delicious steamed rice wrapped in palm leaves instead of wax paper. And just as you might buy a hot dog to go with the rice, in Indonesia we have satay, strips of meat barbecued on sticks over a charcoal fire. With our food, we like hot peppers and spices. The hotter, the better. Then to cool off, we have soda pop and soft drinks. Ice cold orangeade tastes mighty good here on the equator. So you see, city life here isn't so very different from life in your hometown. It's when I leave the city that I realize how things in our country would seem different to you. Our country is spread over an area as large as yours, but it's broken up into 3,000 pieces. Java, Sumatra, Borneo, the Celebes, the Moluccas, New Guinea, 3,000 islands. You can imagine how much harder it is for us to communicate with each other than it is for you who have only mountains and plains to cross. That's one reason why radio is so important to us. We have a national radio that broadcasts news of current events in the new national language and many other languages to our 80 million people. We are also making moving pictures to bring information to as many people as possible. Motion pictures and radio are so important because most of our people learn best by looking and by listening. They don't read newspapers or books because most of them have never been to school. What this man knows about rice farming, he learned from his parents. And he can tell his own little boy only what he knows. Things are done the same way generation after generation. This is one of the things we are changing. Before planting a new crop, some farmers make an offering to the rice god. Do you feel that offering this rice is a strange custom? Perhaps the farmer would feel that your custom of throwing rice at a wedding is even stranger. Another thing that we are changing is the harvesting of rice in the ancient tradition. Each head is cut one by one with a small knife in the palm of the hand. In some places, the rice is hulled and pounded into flour with poles. In other regions, the grain is hulled in the fields by stamping on it. It's hard for you to realize, but it takes at least 200 times more labor to produce a bushel of rice here than in your country where you have machinery to help. People work hard in Indonesia. 8 men have to work longer and harder to unload a boat full of coconuts than if there were 1 man and a machine. Our fishing boats sail far out to sea. They carry no charts, no navigation aids, no books. They use only the skills of their crew. Why do our people do things in old-fashioned ways? They haven't had a chance. Our children weren't able to go to school. For many, many years, Indonesia was a colony, unable to help herself or her people. A little of our history is told in the stamps that I'm sending you. The red stamp is the first one ever issued in Indonesia, King William III of the Netherlands. Wilhelmina became queen in 1898, Queen of the Netherlands Indies, or Dutch East Indies as we were called then. In 1938, a commemorative stamp reminded us that Wilhelmina had ruled our islands for 40 years. But 4 years later, an anchor and some Japanese characters appeared on her picture. We were ruled by the Japanese for 3 years. And then, Indonesia Merdeka, freedom for Indonesia. But a declaration of independence was not enough. Like you, we had to fight a revolutionary war, the war in which I was a battalion commander. Finally, with United Nations aid, freedom at last came to Indonesia. This is Sukarno, the leader of our revolution and our first president. Our national anthem, Indonesia Raya. We think of Sukarno the same as you think of George Washington. We believe in any God we want. 90% of our people are Muslims who pray to Allah and follow the teachings of Muhammad. About 3% of our people are Christians, like these Bataks in Sumatra, converted by Christian missionaries many years ago. These people are honoring one of their local heroes. Many of our present-day leaders come from Batak villages like this, just as your leaders came from log cabins and frontier towns. Besides Muslims and Christians, there are Buddhists, Hindus, and followers of other religious beliefs in Indonesia. Here in Bali, women bring offerings of rice cakes, fruits, and flowers to their Hindu temple. Festivals have become much more frequent since we won our independence. The most remarkable change that freedom has brought to Indonesia is education. With the opening of schools everywhere, children flock to them, eager to learn. There are college students, elementary school students, and kindergarten children. Our little boys and girls sing and dance about the importance of rest and sleep, just as little children do in your country. Sometimes they dress up. These two are the king and queen of Siam. And here are visitors from Japan. Boys in Indonesia play wild men of Borneo just like you play cowboys there. And we like our disguises too. But not all our play acting is done by young children. Puppet shows are one of our favorite entertainments in Java and Bali. The puppets cast a shadow on a thin screen and may be viewed from either side. The show begins about 8 in the evening and we watch all night long. Even the children stay up to watch. The puppet stories always involve a struggle between good and evil, and good always triumphs. But don't think that Indonesia uses only puppets to tell its stories. We have many dances on the many islands, some that tell stories, some that we do to express our feelings. These boys in central Sumatra are doing a plate dance, striking the plates with metal rings on their fingers. All through the islands, our children learn the music and the arts that make our country rich. Not rich in the sense of money, but rich in the pleasure of living. This girl on Bali, only 7 years old, is dancing the Ligong, the dove dance. The instruments are made from bamboo by people in the village and belong to the village. Small boys may play in the orchestra, and even the very old men. For hundreds of years, our children have learned the customs of our people, the old ways. Now that independence has come to us, we are also beginning to teach them the new. These children are growing into a world that is different from that which our old men have known. We plan to keep what was good in the old and find what is good in the new. For now, goodbye. I send you best wishes from your friends in Indonesia.
Pretty amazing. Of course, after they got their independence, there was communist faction that started up there, and then basically whoever was in charge did some purging of people. There's a documentary called The Art of Killing, or is it The Act of Killing? Act of Killing, where they find people that were some of the mercenary killers who they have reenact what they did. I don't recommend it if you're a kid. As an adult, it's still hard to watch. But yeah, anyways, beautiful country, beautiful culture, constantly in a state of turmoil as far as politics go, which is very unfortunate. But anyways, that's not what we're here for. That was 1955. So thanks for tuning in today. Today is Tuesday, and we'll be back again tomorrow, Wednesday. We're going to watch some more 16mm films and learn more stuff. Thanks everybody for tuning in. If you like what you saw, hit the thumbs up button, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. You know, all those different things that you can do. You can also buy us coffee at ko-fi.com/avgeeks. But everybody have a great rest of your day. Keep cool. It's like brutal outside. It's all hot and just very humid here in Raleigh. So, not I'm gonna stay inside and hug a fan. Everybody take care. We'll see you soon. Bye.